Thanks for being here. Very good day of practice this morning. I thought really good yesterday as well. A lot of stuff on film we got a chance to clean up, and we're really focused this week on ourselves. It's the perfect time for a bye week. It's a perfect time for us to continue to work through the combinations of players on the field, begin to continue to develop deeper trust from quarterbacks to receivers, running backs to offensive line, communication across the front, and then defensively, I think we're playing some pretty good football. We just cleaned up the tackling a lot from last week. Just a couple open coverages, especially on fourth down, that we know we got to clean up. So just a ton of combinations we're throwing at them at this week, and really acting as the opponent that we're about to see, and just things that they'll attack that we put on film over the past 2 weeks. So this week's ultimately about us. We definitely have sprinkled in, a 10-minute period of UNC and some special teams, but ultimately we're going to focus on us as we roll through this week. And I thought today was a great start to that week.
Coach, what did the film kind of show you from Saturday as you broke it down and everything? Was it as bad as you thought, as good as you thought? How did it kind of play out?
Yeah, well, I think, the pre-snap stuff is really what bothered us the most. Just the alignment, some alignment issues, some miscommunication with the live signaler, and a couple motion issues, jumping off sides. Those things just can't happen. If you can't snap the ball, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So those were probably the things that we were most disappointed about when we went back and looked at it. In the passing game, there's some guys open. This team brought a lot of pressure though, and I thought we held up well. Our running backs got to do a little bit better in the pass protection, but I thought we had a chance to get the ball out. We had 2 or 3 batted down that would have been nice completions, and one was high in that first play of the game. You throw that ball and you complete it. There's nobody around for 20 yards, and we're just a little high. And then that 4th and 3, I think, is a perfect call. We get our hands on it. We just got to come down with it. So those were the things. I think you get that first 4th down and you go right down the field and score. I think this game's very different. We didn't do that. So then you're in the dogfight with these guys, and I've been on the other side of that thing multiple times, and you give them a little bit, you give that underdog just a little bit, and they're going to hold on to it, they're going to attack, and they're going to possess the football and take their time down the field, and that's what they did. We didn't have chances with the ball in our hands early. They possessed the ball a lot longer than us, and I thought when we got it, we just got to stay calm and not try to hurry up and get these scores. We got to just execute our offense the way it's meant to be executed at that moment. There's moments for tempo. That wasn't one of them. We got to all just relax a little bit. But it's said after the game, it's the first, second game, and there's a lot of guys on this team, minus 2 of them on offense and really 1 of them on defense, that have been multiple year starters. And it's just not the case. This is new to a lot of people. So I think we're starting to find our groove. And I thought, this Monday and Tuesday were very good work days.
What stood out about your defense the first couple weeks? Obviously, just giving up 6.5 points per game. But yeah. What's kind of stood out for you?
Well, I think that we're doing a good job on the X play. We're taking away the big ball, right? We have not seen that show up, but with it comes giving up a little things, down below. And are we willing to do that? And then when that field gets constricted and we get into the red zone, are we prepared for all the things you're going to see? I was talking to Coach Hemphill about it this morning, but nobody lines up in a formation and runs a play anymore. There's motions and there's shifts and there's the back jumps, and then there's hide plays and delays and rub routes, and all those things are what happens down there, and those are what we consider 4-point plays. They have a field goal on the board. We're trying not to let them get those next 4 points. So we did a lot of that yesterday. We did a lot of that today, and we're just going to continue to do that as we navigate this entire season realistically, because that's where the points show up. So I thought we did a good job on defense of that. We gave up a couple things moving down the field, but which one do you want to give up, right? You want to give up something a little shorter and make them earn it, or do you want to give up the deep one? And I think that we got to dabble in both, and I know that I like what we've done so far on that side of the ball. These coaches are doing a really good job of preparing these guys.
What has the attitude of your players been like this week as they've sort of approached kind of more of a self-reflective type of week of practice?
Yeah, very good. It's been and that's what we talked about in yesterday. We said this week is solely about you getting better. And when I broke down the team out on the field, it's just a simple question: did you get better today? And we defined the 2 or 3 things each position group needs to get better at today and tomorrow, and those are things that when we come out of this bye week, we need to be better at. And if we're not better at it, then we failed this bye week. So we got to make sure that we're doing that. So we're putting them in some stressful situations. We have really going good on good quite a bit. Receivers need to block better. DBs need to get off blocks. They did 2 different periods of, wide receiver DB downfield block today instead of individual drills. So the running backs, need to make people miss. The linebackers have to make tackles in close quarters, especially in 2 weeks. weeks when we play this kid from North Carolina. There's a whole lot in there that we got to do, and I love that we're doing it good on good right now, and that's what this bye week gives you the opportunity to do. But their spirits are extremely high. They are ready to get back to work. I think, if anything, we should not like anything about what happened on Saturday, but at the same point in time, it's the best moment in time for that to happen. And I think that it's just a good, reality check for all of us of getting back to work.
How impressed were you with George Pettaway's performance? I think other than a holding penalty, he had a pretty much perfect day.
Yeah, I thought he did a really good job. I think that, we keep saying it, but he's a dual threat in many different, triple threat realistically. He can catch, he can block, he can run, he can do all of it. And he's just becoming a complete back. And the more that we test him and fire, the more he gets those game reps, the better he is going to be. And I think it's an exciting week for him coming up.
What do you think, like, his kind of mindset today? He seems like a very humble guy. Like,
Yep.
I think technically he would be like the highest recruited high school player if he came here as a freshman.
Yep.
What has your impressions have been about just his personality?
He works. He just goes to work. He's quiet. He goes to work. He has fun doing what he does. He really, loves this sport. He loves this game, and he loves, being able to get out there and, play the sport that he's passionate about. And he puts a lot into it. Takes care of his body the right way. He does everything right. Studies the playbook. Does everything right. So when he gets out on the field, he's a guy you certainly can trust.
Talking with some of Cole and Jacob after the game on Saturday, they definitely seemed a little frustrated and said that, maybe we did overlook them just a little bit. How have you seen kind of the leaders on this team respond?
Yeah, so that is it's not inevitable, but we've all been part of that, been part of those games. And we could not have stressed it more. I've lived them, on both sides of them, and they've lived them too. So it's not a thing, you just have to be able to focus on the process, focus on what you do every single day. You can't just focus on outcomes. You have to focus on the process. And that's what we talked a lot about, with the leaders yesterday and today. And we have another meeting today, at 4:00 to just get the leadership council back together again and go through those things. What are the things that we're focused on? Yes, we want to win games, and we are focused on winning football games, but we have to be committed to the process of what gets us there. That's ultimately it. And what are the things that we all agree upon and believe in, and how do we attack those every single day? We can't just focus on only game day. We have to do all the work leading up to, what that game day is. And that's what those leaders bring to the table. They came out to practice today and yesterday and were, on fire. And that's what we just need to continue to do.
Transu's talked to Hayden a little bit about this, but Virginia Tech goes down to ODU this week. I know those kind of contracts where they go down there multiple times or don't really happen much anymore with ACC schools. What kind of roadblocks have you guys run into trying to get those games, whether they be on the road or here, 2-for-1 type deals? And just what would it mean if JMU could get somebody like that to come?
Yeah, well, I think it's hard to get people to come here, right? Because they want their home games, and if they're going to play, a group of 5 team, they're going to want it to be there, right? Ultimately, but I'm not in charge of that. They run the names by me and say, "Would you like to play these guys?" And I'm game for just about anybody. But for them, I think that obviously we're probably not one that, the history of us here is not one that you really want on your schedule usually, and I think that's one of the things that I think there's probably are roadblocks. I think we tried to schedule a lot of them. It's just not that easy to do. And I think when you knock off Virginia, a year ago, that makes it a little bit more challenging. But I don't know the ins and outs of it. I'm not part of that. That happens up at the athletic director level and with Matt, Transu as well. But I'm not 100% sure on each and every one of those conversations. Wish I had more for you.
You were talking after the game on Saturday about, 58 new guys, and even during the preseason, all the talk was how much depth is on this roster. Do you guys still feel like as a coaching staff, you're trying to figure out where all of the pieces fit, like putting guys in the best positions to succeed and where guys thrive? Do you still feel like you guys are trying to search for the right combinations?
Yeah, I think that you're always going to do that, and then you have to prep all of it because you just don't know who's making it through each game. This is not a game that, usually you're just fully intact with how you start, how you finish every game, and how you start the year is how you finish the year. So bringing everyone along is really important for us to always be doing. But as far as those combinations, yeah, we have to continue to work on what is it? Like, what is it that's going to click? What is it that does click? What is it that works together? What is it that doesn't work together? Those are things that you got to test in fire, which we do every day, but you really got to test those in games. And now with 2 games under our belt, we have a really good, body of evidence to start to look look into those things and break down and figure out exactly where we stand with a lot of those things. So we're not quite there yet, but we're going to have to, even when we find that this is the great combination, we have to be prepared for it not to be anymore, if something happens to someone. So I think we're, focusing in on that, and we're getting closer, but ultimately we have to prepare everybody.
Coach, I'm just curious, what's the mindset of this team been like with this next game being such a big game on the road?
Yeah, we're not talking about it, to be honest with you. We went through a little bit of the prep of the scout, but this week is about us. We have a little bit that we're putting in of them today. Yesterday and today were about us. Tomorrow will be still about us, a little bit more of a sprinkle of it, and then Thursday will be a little bit more about them before we take a little bit of a break. But ultimately, these first 3 days have to be about us. I haven't heard a whole lot of people talk about it. Nobody. I think we understand that we got to get us right first, and that's what we're working on.
Coach, you mentioned you're always trying to be able to put the pieces to the puzzle. 2 weeks in so far with all these new additions, brand new first year for you. How would you say, where do you think this team is at so far? Is it on schedule to what you expected at this point, a little behind or ahead?
Yeah, I don't know what I expected, to be honest with you. I think that's probably the trepidation you have going into every single week right now is who are we? We have not – I've played a lot of football with Jacob Dobbs, a lot of football with Pat McMurtry, a lot of football with Tyler Purdy and Terrence Spence. That's where I've been. The rest of this combination we're trying to feel out and put together. We haven't played a lot of football together yet. Same for every one of these guys. Some guys have come from 1, 2, 3 different programs. So this is one of those things that you're trying to get this all blended together. And if there's anything I thought we did well in that second half, it was that ability to keep coming together. There was no fracture point. Nobody broke. We made some ridiculous mistakes, with alignments and pre-snap penalties, but ultimately nobody broke. Nobody's spirit was broken and didn't feel like they could accomplish the mission. They were all locked in and supportive of each other and, ready to continue to battle forever if they had to. And that to me is what matters the most. Now we got to clean up some of the stuff, but ultimately I like where they were at. I can't fully give you an answer on that because there's such a broad range of people coming together to accomplish this mission, and exactly where we're at, we just have to continue to test and fire. What I don't like is the pre-snap penalties. What we don't like are the mistakes that we made out there that have to be solidified and have to be solidified this week.
You said after the game on Saturday, too, that you needed to go back and watch the film on Alonzo. After having that chance, how do you think he performed over the weekend?
I think he did a good job. I think that he missed the first one a little high, right? And then the fourth in, 2 throw, it's wide open, and we get our hands on it. We got to come down with that ball. But he had 3 or 4 other ones that were on target but are tipped. They're going to the right place. He's on time, but the pressure, that they were bringing was pretty significant at moments, but I thought he did a fine job. I think he's a guy that, gives us good options in a run game. I think he's a good leader, and I think he's a good football player. So I think he's right where he needs to be.
And then you said, obviously, practice this week is focusing on you guys and as the team. What does the weekend look like for them with it being a bye?
So we're going to give them off over the weekend. So they're going to be able to go Friday, Saturday, and be back on Sunday. So that's their schedule for the weekend. So some of them will go back home, drive home to their high school football games. Others will just stick around here and hang out. And if those guys that are around here, we'll have things for them to do. But ultimately, it's time for them to just kind of reset for a minute and get back to work.
Obviously in this new era of the college football playoff, every game matters.
Yep.
However, does it give you a little bit of reassurance, the fact that you guys have the time to figure all of this stuff out now with, conference play not happening until like October?
Yeah, I mean, yes is the answer. The where this bye week is positioned is excellent, right? For us to, again, focus on us. You have 2 games. You have 2, again, 2 different games that you could reflect on and really dive into and figure out exactly where we're at. And I think that's extremely helpful. There's not huge pressure on them. They prepare for the opponent this weekend. We get to prepare for ourselves. This is a great opportunity. If we were playing a conference opponent right now this next week, it tightens things up a little bit. But right now I kind of like where this is.
You mentioned those guys who came with you from Holy Cross, and obviously guys on your staff and everything. Bye week maybe it's time to reflect a little bit. Has there been anything that you guys have talked about that like, wow, this is a lot different here, or just having moved up, whether it be like playing in front of sold out crowds or how fans react to certain things or anything?
No,
like that?
I mean, fans react. Nobody's really overly. They could do what they want to do. I guess keep your, friends close, I guess, huh? But it's one of those things that I just think, when you go through it, I like where we're at as a staff. I think it's us finding the right combination and finding ways to test these things and fire, right? Getting through those games and making those mistakes. You almost have to do that. You almost have to make mistakes as this current team, this year's team. You have to make mistakes to learn from those mistakes, right? And I think that's what we were able to do over this weekend. There was nobody's had conversations about any of that. It was just about what do we got to do to get better here, and looking at the lead up before halftime of just the jumping off sides and the misaligned and not getting it on 4th and 1. Those are all things that are frustrating for everybody. So I think that's really where our focus is how do we really reach these guys? Do they learn different? Do they take notes differently? How do we get our point to them? What are they hearing us say? Not just what are we teaching, but how are they learning? That's the focus of our attention throughout this week.
To be clear, I wasn't necessarily meaning anything negative or even football-wise, but your first 2 games are sellouts. I don't know if you've had that in your career or doing a press conference on a bye week or things like that. Is that all different for you?
Yeah. I think we did press conferences on bye weeks. We never had a sellout. I think it held 25 there or something like that. We never sold out. No.
Been a long time since you asked about Tyshawn Wyatt. Does he have any visits lined up with doctors about his health? Is there any
No, he's just progressing and trying to figure this out, right? It's been status quo for him as he is right now. He's in a good spot. He feels good. We just got to get full clearance.
An IODI?
No answer on that IO yet. But Taji was out there running around today, so hopefully we continue to progress that too throughout this week into next.